For the majority of my life, I had to hide who I was. I came from a generation that really required you to go under the radar, to not bring attention to yourself, to just blend in. And so you never told anybody about yourself. You never, especially about your status. In the church was the deepest well of the city, where the priest was lowered every morning. Please say more. I split open the small fish and counted the candles tucked inside, all the pink nails tapping the wicks. Please elaborate. If I had children, there would be no reason to empty the bowls stagnant with rainwater. No reason at all to keep saying, "You are almost." Please say more. The wasps, their multitude of clapping hands. Please elaborate. How small the dolls, how insignificant the hands that move them. Please say more. Perhaps the butterflies are mute because no one would believe their terrible stories.
This poem is entitled Immigration Interview with Don Francisco, and you have another poem in the book titled Immigration Interview with Jay Leno. And so, if I'm correct, Don Francisco is the Chilean television host?
Yes.
I'm wondering how he and Jay Leno, these television hosts, found their way into your poems.
Yeah, so I'm very fascinated by the interview as a form of content, as a form of knowledge. And I've been really fascinated with late night talk show hosts and the rules you're supposed to follow in late night talk show hosts, which even though it's very informal, it's very, there's jokes back and forth. Sometimes they go off script. There's no script, but sometimes they go off script.
Yeah.
And it's witty banter. And there's a kind of new knowledge that is created by that. Like on David Letterman, there's a moment in which Crispin Glover, who played George McFly in Back to the Future, he's on there, and this happened in the 90s. He reads tabloids about himself. He wants to fight David Letterman. He like kicks the air, and it's a moment in which the rules are broken.
Yeah.
That they step into like an uncharted territory, and David Letterman walks off the stage, visibly upset.
Oh my God.
The famous one with Joaquin Phoenix, where he has the long beard.
I remember that
one.
It
ends with him saying, "Well, we wish Joaquin could have been here." Turned out to be it was staged, but I'm thinking of the immigration interview as a kind of body of knowledge, the rules you're expected to follow, and in particular, they are arbiters of love because they're trying to discern if you are in love with this person. So for me, the cultural aspects of the interview are very similar to a very different kind of interview, one in which you are asking to remain in the country, one in which you are basically, pleading. You present your evidence, you present yourself, and the rules are the same. You're sitting across from somebody. We're in an interview right now. So when I read this poem, I didn't do it now, but I ask the audience to help me. When I gesture to them, they say, "Please say more." And so it's a way for them to, be in on the performance of interviewing me.
Yeah.
As if it were an immigration interview.
Oh, interesting.
And I get different responses because, some people say, I don't want to be put in that position because it makes me uncomfortable. Or other times, it's grateful that you put them in that position so that they can, start seeing the kinds of things that people go through in immigration interviews.
Yeah.
And basically saying, you're basically saying, my biggest question was, okay, what if I love this person now, but maybe I won't love them 10 years from now. Is that cause for rejection?
Oh,
Maybe
interesting.
I don't love them now, but I will learn to love them later. Would that be cause for rejection if I don't love them now? Or maybe I don't love them at all, but this is, we're going to make it work. We're going to be together, but we don't love each other. So
like any marriage.
Right. I feel like they are deciding what love is.
Yeah.
And as if it's a constant, as if what we feel then has to be carried out.
Interesting.
The interview for me is a very interesting thing. So I started writing these, and they're not direct answers, it resists, it breaks one of those rules where you're asked something and you're expected to respond.
Yeah.
So these break that in the sense that they don't answer the questions, especially in the Jay Leno one, that's asking very specific questions.
Yeah.
Which aren't answered. This is the part of the play where the daughter brings home her boyfriend to meet the parents. Let's say they're rich and the popular type. They like the sound the word strengths makes in their mouth. Let's say you imagine them white, although they are not. This is the part where her mother dips the boy's name up and down like a dead bird hanging from a string by its feet. I was a small thing dipped in pink, calling to the shy boys in the dark. I want to help you out of here, they say. Honey, you can't afford that, I say. I bobbed up to their mouth for air with my wide, wet lips. My name was a flesh-colored candy in their mouth. I buried my head where their thighs met, trying to peel off all their tattoos with my tongue. We're in low light. I'm told not to believe in you, but I believe in the gun. Yes, even the gun. Yes, especially the gun we bury in the yard and dig up after 3 months of rain, expecting somehow for something other than a gun to blossom. You bow as the lights go out on stage for the applause. We deserve this. It's completely dark, and the audience begin clapping, but they can still hear you weeping, and they're not sure whether to run up to the stage and help you or keep clapping. They keep clapping.
Like many of your poems, this one plays upon the intimacy required for both violence and tenderness. The imagery about burying the gun in the yard was particularly well crafted, I thought. When the seeds of violence are planted, how can we expect anything but violence to grow?
Right.
Were these lines inspired by a particular moment of gun violence, or would you say it's the sheer accumulation of violence that led you to create that moment in the poem?
Yeah, I think because violence has been such a part of my life, that it's become kind of the lowest common denominator of reference points to upon which everything else kind of builds around. And for me, you kind of grow kind of numb to it. And especially for this poem, it's the way it's structured and the way it was originally structured. It was a form called the Pechacucha, which is a form kind of inspired by a poem in Terence Hayes' book Lighthead, where she has a Pechacucha, which is a form created by architects in Japan.
Oh, interesting.
As a way to speed up PowerPoint presentations, because they were taking really long. So, Japanese business people said, let's create a form in which you have 20 slides that you can say, and you say one thing that takes 20 seconds about each slide.
Oh, wow.
You move on. And so you have this new form of the Pecha Kucha, which the pieces kind of talk to each other and they talk to the images and they're standalone things. And they have to kind of like all feel the same.
Yeah.
So in I guess when I first started it, it was really contained by that form. It obviously didn't. This is one of the poems that has a lot of white space, that has a lot of blank space, and they're all justified kind of down to the bottom margin.
Did there used to be 20 sections?
Yeah. There used to be 20 sections. And I guess this section in the book is the section in which it asks the question of how can we be together? How can we, what is it that we can call each other? And can we call it a play? Can we call it a fiction? Can we play these roles, of like the nuclear family? Trying to find a name for what it is that we're doing, and it's very much inspired by like the first poem saying, you can call it something, you can call it cutting apart, I can call it song. Because it is a way of trying to live in a queer body that is invested in a heteronormative institution like marriage. And so, originally the poem was, let's play these roles. You will play the woman, I will play the man. I will play the woman, you will play the man. To not fictionalize, but somewhat make those definitions more fluid.
Okay, yeah. I'm so glad that you brought that up, because performance is such a big aspect in so many of these poems. It's such a big theme throughout this book.
Acting, performance, and it is in that poem. They're watching us on TV from their homes, because those gender roles are a performance. That's Judith Butler.
You say Judith Butler. I should think Judith Butler too, but I think about RuPaul. Because he says, you're born naked and the rest of life is drag, or I'm sure I'm butchering that quote, but
and it's funny you say that, because when I was finishing the book, kind of in grad school, and when it was taking place, was my first introduction into drag. And it was kind of like this blossoming of in another poem. I have lines from Lana Del Rey, who kind of has a persona about her, and is putting forward this persona. And there's lines directly from her in that poem, Synonyms on Tender and a Confession, because apart from finding out what it is that we are trying to do, I think I was finally given a permission to express a kind of queer identity that I didn't think I could. Because I didn't have the kinds of experiences that my friends had, because I am in a monogamous relationship. So what else can I do within my writing in order to express that? And so I think Lana Del Rey and RuPaul kind of gave me this permission.
And Judith Butler.
Gave me this permission of opulence. Of opulence. Even opulence, even if you are poor. Because that was my reality growing up. And I think opulence is denied, and I think it is very seen as one-way streak where you have to have money in order to be opulent. But, it was around this time also that I saw Paris is Burning as well, and finding ways, Junior LePage, who says, you own everything, everything is yours. So I think this poem comes out of that. And I think the language and the scenery and the imagery is trying to gesture towards like a kind of opulence. There are only masks because we make them beautiful. The sparrow, the gold inside the sparrow. Maybe I'm just looking for an exit. The birds don't know it's not too late to abandon their nests. It was never the rain promising us our future. Yes, I loved you most in your big brown coat. The room was too bright. No one was afraid to die anymore. Serve the gin. I loved the rain when it least resembled rain. Kissing was sometimes like that, when it had nothing to do with our mouths. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. If I'm tired, then I'm tired. The sick were hiding, the robes were removed from the churches more numinous than rain. Yes, the light needs something to rest on. Stay still. Let me start over. There was a mother. The sparrow was looking for an exit. Kissing was sometimes like that, looking for an exit. Let me start again. The cold disguised as a mother's hands, the rain, the echo. It was never a promise. These are the rules you're expected to follow. Either praise the beautiful or praise what is left over. Choose the one that is most like a bridge. Soak your hands and face in it.
Thank you for reading 15 Elegies. The cold disguised as a mother's hands, that line I thought was just cutting. Wow. In the final section of the poem, you write, these are the rules you're expected to follow. Either praise the beautiful or praise what is left over. Choose the one that is most like a bridge. Soak your hands and face in it. It makes me think of praise the mutilated world, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
What can you tell me about the origin of these rules, how they found their way into the poem?
Yeah. I again, thinking about this takes place in the section with the poems about interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Is that there are rules that you're expected to follow, but not all the time they make sense. I had that line in my head for a very long time. Either praise the beautiful or praise what is left over. Choose the one that is most like a bridge. Soak your hands and face in it. And I kind of went back and forth. I guess I'm thinking about the origin of it. Sometimes I have a line and I find the container to fit it. The language comes first. I don't know what it is, but eventually the experience one experience or an observation, I will find it.
Yeah.
Another time I see the experience first, the situation, in terms of like narrative plot. I see the narrative plot first, and then I find the language to fit it. This poem is one in which the lines came first, and all of it was. And I'm glad you focused on that because the poem was built around those lines.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Death was always present but distant.
Yeah.
And so it was a long time into kind of my life that I went to my first funeral, and then all of a sudden, a lot of them started stacking up. It was almost like,
oh my goodness,
they were all, a lot of them happened at once. When that really had never happened before.
I was going to ask about the title, 15 Elegies.
Yeah.
And so you're responding maybe in part to this deluge of funerals that you had to attend.
And I guess for me, the reason I didn't read the numbers and the reason the numbers are there is because I was imagining, again, thinking of the lyrical association between objects, similar to the Pechacucha, where each section kind of has something to do with each other.
Totally,
with
yes.
This one, I felt like they could be read narratively from one to the other, but at the same time, they are their own thing, as if an elegy in and of itself is the words, there are only masks because we make them beautiful.
Oh, interesting.
That in itself can serve as an elegy. Maybe I'm just looking for an exit. That is an elegy in and of itself. And so...
And it's a line you repeat in this poem.
Looking for an exit. And so, yes, they are strung together somewhat narratively, but for me, they're sections because I wanted each one to serve as a stand-in or as a definition of an elegy, an example of an elegy. And we all know, what elegies are.
Yeah.
And this isn't that, right?
Yeah.
But I guess it's my way of making it that.
I just love that because so much of the whole book is about making something that's like the tradition or what's expected of you your own.
Right. I mean, and that's where the title comes from.
Yeah.
For the majority of my life, I had to hide who I was. I came from a generation that really required you to go under the radar, to not bring attention to yourself, to just blend in. And so you never told anybody about yourself. You never, especially about your status. And so, I wasn't raised Catholic despite my rosary. But this book, I was catching up from many years of confession. And it was finally a way in which I could say what I couldn't say for the longest time. And Sensontle is the Nahua word used in Mexico. And it's spelled differently in different countries. For mockingbird, for the bird who doesn't have its own call, but has in Nahua is the bird of 400 songs. So I think the large part of the book has to do with speaking those new forms.